What does it mean to live more with less? I'm Katie Wells, and welcome to the Maximized Minimalist Podcast. If you found yourself caught up in the hamster wheel of modern-day motherhood and want to rewrite the script, congratulations, you're in the right place. I'm here to be your guide and help you take back your motherhood and achieve a simpler, more joy-filled life. Cheers to being a maximized minimalist. Enjoy the show.
Casey, welcome back to the Maximized Minimalist. So excited to have you today.
I'm excited to be back.
So we've started a new tradition since you were last on, and I want to kick off by asking if you could magically declutter one thing from your life for effort, like no effort required, what would it be?
Forever. Oh my goodness. I'm going to do a really shallow one. I hate that my kids' underwear is always stuck in their pants when it comes time to do laundry. So I would declutter that from my life.
That is actually a really great answer. I think they're all great. It's funny to see where people take it. But yes, or like the socks even sometimes getting stuck in the pants. Now, I decluttered doing my kids' laundry. So they have to deal. They learned quickly when they were started their own laundry last summer. They're 8 and 9 now. It's annoying to have to unroll your socks and like get your undies out of your pants. Not that they haven't washed them like that before. But
yeah. Oh man, you took it next level. Okay. I'm going to declutter that from my life by making my kids do my laundry. I'm in.
Heck yeah. Let's simplify. Okay. So you've been on the show before. So you're obviously, for those who haven't met you, you are a mom and your career is you're a professional photo organizer. That's how we originally connected. So I'd love to ask, why do you think it's so important for you and, the families you work with to go beyond just storing photos on our phones or even our computers and actually enjoy and utilize them?
Oh, I have so many reasons, but I'll just give two. Number one, I think that women, especially moms, especially are carrying a lot of guilt or anxiety or just like underlying emotions about how they're handling their photos. So I think we feel guilty if it's all on our phone and our kids are not seeing it, or we worry about what's going to happen to our pictures when we're gone. And so I think that's a lot of emotional burden to carry all the time. And so if we can have a plan or get our photos printed or have a strategy that we use to just alleviate that is such a gift. And then also the gift, our family, our kids seeing the pictures from the phone in their hands, seeing themselves represented on the screen or not on the screen and the pages on the book in a format that they can easily enjoy. I know there's research out there that says it improves self-esteem and it makes them feel like solidified in their position in the family. And so those are valuable things too. So I think printing photos is so important.
I agree. I started printing Photobooks when I met you. I think that was, 2019. This one maybe 2020 at the latest. So 4 years, 5 years now. You inspired me to create my first family photo book. And we just do like an annual one, you teach. And I would say at least once a week, one of my sons flips through that. One of them.
Yes.
I have about a dozen at this point. Some of them school and kind of art related, some of them more family related. Even the one that was gifted of my engagement, my mom made us years ago when Andrew proposed. She made a little photo book. It was so sweet. Like they look at those. And I'm like, who would have thought they actually cared about how mom and dad met? And but they love it. They love it.
They love it.
Telling through photos. Oh, mom, remember when we got ice cream? Remember when we traveled here? Remember when this happened? And it was so funny. I'm like, yes, that's so
You're like, actually, I had forgotten that. So I'm really glad that I wrote it down in the book. Yes, it serves as our memory. My son the other day, he must have been reading his baby book because he made some comment about remember how I was 4 months old when I slept through the night the first time? And I was like, there's no chance. He's 12. There's no chance you remember this thing that happened when you were 4 months old. And I honestly didn't remember that either. I was sleep deprived back when that happened.
Oh, yeah.
And so he had read it in his baby book and just committed that to his memory. And so it's so valuable. We can't even imagine the ways that they're going to internalize these books, but it's so fun.
So for those out there who are like, okay, well, Casey, I have 13,000, 20,000, 50,000 photos on my phone. What's the first step to getting organized and ultimately leading to perhaps a photo book, but at bare minimum, just simplifying what's on our devices?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen all sorts of numbers of phone counts.
You've seen it all. No judgment.
The average that I work with for my students and my clients falls between 30 to 40,000, but I've worked with people all the way up to 400,000 photos on their phone. So it's really all over the place. And the first thing you need to do is let go of any guilt and shame about that number, because it truly doesn't mean anything. So we're going to let that go. The second thing we're going to do is decide what project we want to do first. So you listed a lot of different books that you have in your house, and people might hear that and think, oh, I want an engagement book, and I want the school book, and you might have this list running in your head of the books, and you're not going to do any of them until you pick the one that you're going to do first. And so I want you to first pick the book you're going to do. And I have a few tips there. Some people like doing their most recent book if they're going to do an annual book like I do, because those photos are freshest on your phone and the memories are freshest in your head. And so maybe the book can come together more. But other people find it easier to go all the way back. Maybe they start with 2012, the year that they had their first kid or something like that, because the passage of time sometimes makes it easier to go back and make those books, because all those details you've forgotten. And then you can just put like the big meaningful milestones that you still remember onto the pages. And so you'll decide what that one book is you're going to start with. Pick the one that's going to be easiest for you to complete, or that you're most excited to complete, because the key is just getting one finished book in your hands, so that once you see your kids enjoying it, like you said, you saw your boys enjoying it, that motivates you to move on to the next book. Like, oh, well, if this kid has a book where he's in it, I better move on to a book where that second kid was born so that he can have a book that he's enjoying too, right? It's naturally going to gain momentum, but you got to get that first book in your hands or in the hands of your family to kind of gain that motivation to keep going forward.
Are there any ways that either you personally or you found maybe out there with all the information online that we can maybe better enjoy our digital photos, maybe perhaps without doing the work of getting a photo book created or doing it ourselves, and also like kind of storing them on our phone, collecting digital dust? Like, is there an in-between where it's not so much time invested, but you're still able to do it? And what does that look like?
Absolutely. There are no rules when it comes to printing your photos. So you can see me have a stack of all the books, one per year, and think, oh, I'm going to do it like she does it, but you don't have to. And so if that feels like too much effort to make one book where everyone's in it and all the vacations and all the things, then start smaller. Start with whatever feels easier to you. Just because I make one book a year doesn't mean you have to. You could make one for just a weekend trip to Disney or a kid's birthday. You can pick whatever topic you want to make a book. For me, I chose to just make one a year because that felt like something I could commit to. Okay, I can handle one book a year. I don't know if I can handle multiple books a year. So I would say it doesn't have to look like anybody else's. You just want to get the photos printed. And so if it feels too hard to print a big archival book like I have, print a little chapbooks. I get the monthly mini chapbooks. They cost somewhere $7 to $10. That includes the shipping. And all you have to do is pick your 30 favorite photos from them for the month. They turn it into a book. You don't have to have any fancy design, any fancy captions. They just print the book and hey, it's in the hands of my kids a few weeks later. It's so fast and inexpensive. There's nothing wrong with that. So you don't have to make it big and fancy if that is going to make you not finish the book. All we need is it to be in the hands of our kids. Another thing that I found was even easier that I started this year is I started making photo placemats for my kids' birthdays. And so it took me just a few minutes. I picked 12 to 18 photos on my phone from this year of that kid. And I took it to Canva. I have a template on my blog if someone wants to use my template, but any Canva template. I dumped those 12 to 18 photos. I printed it at FedEx Kinko's and added the like glossy lamination. So it's like a real thick, they can spill food on it or water. And it cost $5 and it was done at most an hour. And now they have them out on their placemats as the like year round. So I did one for each birthday and I'm going to update it each year. So it doesn't have to be a book to have photos physically present in your house.
Oh my gosh, I forgot. I was gifted years ago placemats of the kids. They must have been 2 and 3. Same thing, except it was one large photo of them and it was laminated. And so, of course, when they're that age, they're so messy. And I was like, this is so perfect because it keeps my table clean. And they also love looking at the photo of themselves.
Yes, they do.
We all do, as long as it's a, good photo as you get older. All photos of our kids are good, right? I completely forgot about that. So they got trashed over the years, decluttered ultimately. And
super easy
I completely
to make
forgot. This is a brilliant idea. And you can do collages. And I like how it's like something that's utilized every day. Like that to me feels like a little bit more versatile than a book that maybe you don't look look at every day.
Less formal, low stakes. Like,
Low
okay, if
stakes.
it doesn't turn out, it was $5 at FedEx. If they just use it for a week, like you got your money's worth. But mine have been out there for months now. And we have our Christmas table set at the moment. And they still have their birthday placemats out there. And I was like, oh, I should next year for Christmas. Too much going on right now. But for next year's Christmas, I should make one with all like the Santa pictures and like the Christmas memories. And then we can bring those out every year and have those be at the Christmas table, even though they're just casual everyday placemats. They're not fancy, but I mean, you can take it so many directions. There were people who messaged me on Instagram at Thanksgiving that they made individual placemats for like everyone coming and they got to take it home with them.
Oh, wow.
What a good idea. So it doesn't have to
idea.
be a book to get the photos printed. Moral of the story.
Oh, this is so good. I'm so inspired. I'm already thinking of the ways like my kids would probably like to like really be involved in their placemat making. And okay, this is so good. Okay. So we have printable. Of course, we have the photo books. What was the company you said that just busts them out really quickly?
Chatbooks.
Chatbooks. Okay.
Chatbooks. It's an app on your phone. You just pick your 30 favorites from the month and they turn it into a book. Yeah.
Oh, this is so good. One thing I wanted to share, I don't know if you use one. I think you really display your photos in a lot of other creative ways. Is I invested in a digital photo frame last year.
Yes, I love mine so
I have
much.
an Aura. I know there's lots of different brands
Same.
out there. It brings so much joy. My kids will watch it. So I have it so it flips through a photo every 15 seconds, which is about as fast paced as it goes. Some days I'll change it to 24 hours if I really like, I just want to look at this photo throughout my day.
Oh, I never do that. That's fun.
Yeah. Or if it's like a Christmas photo and, it's Christmas time as we record this, I'll make it, hang out for 24 hours. But it has been awesome. And I also shared access, which is sometimes good, sometimes not so good with my family. So they can add photos from Iowa. The grandparents can. My sister can send photos from Chicago. And we all have frames. So we all send each other. It's been so valuable from like a connection, relationship standpoint. It brings joy. It was an investment, but really, it's just continues to pay for itself. And you love yours as well?
Yes, I was given it this Mother's Day as a gift. And I had always said, I don't need a digital frame. Like I have all these photo books that I've printed. Like I do this. I don't need a digital photo frame. We also have right. We have the like Google Hub, right? So there's pictures that pop up on there when I'm in the kitchen, whatever. I immediately was like, wow, I've been wrong all these years. This Aura frame is so fun. And my kids just sit and watch it. Like we comment on the stuff all the time. Oh my gosh, look at that baby photo. I haven't seen that in years. And the setup was seriously so fast. My husband gave it to me as the gift and he had preloaded it with several photos. So it already worked when I opened the box. Like it's amazing. I highly recommend it. And it's way easier than you think. The Aura frame is
low-hanging fruit. For, displaying. Okay. So we got a lot of different choices, but I know like your kind of niche is really the books. And I know I have a lot of listeners who are really interested in still, starting that book process. So where do they start? Obviously, they start with, what's the end goal? Where am I going to start? Is it a year? Is it an annual? Is it an event? And then where do they go from there if they're facing 40,000 photos on their...
Yes. So they've picked the one book they're going to make first. My advice is to make an album on your phone, like in your camera roll or in Google Photos, whatever service it is where you have those 40,000 photos. Make an album, that's named for that project. So if it is Disney World book, just name it that and add photos into there progressively as you have little pockets of time. So maybe you have 20 minutes today while baby's napping and you can sit down and scroll through that trip of Disney World. What we are going to be doing is looking for the best photos that you want to put in the book. We're not going to get distracted by the screenshots and the itinerary and the other things that are in that time period because we could spend all day deleting trash and it's not helping us get the photos printed. So we are going to just go through that time period, select the ones that we like the best and add them into the album. The album is our gathering space to hold things for this project. It also really lets us start and stop because it is unrealistic that we will be able to sit down and dedicate a whole day to just finishing this book. And so we need little pockets of time where we can add 20 photos to that album today, add another 20 tomorrow, add 5 more the following day. We can work on this over time. Ultimately, you're going to end up with an album, Disney World book that has, I don't know, however many photos. Most of my annual books have like 350 to 450, a lot of photos. And there's no magic number. So once you hit a point where you feel like you've gathered them, then you go make the book. So we are going to do photo selection first as a whole separate task, and then we can move on to actually making the book.
So what I'm hearing is that, and when you said this, I was like, this is me, that I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this photo book made. And then I go down like this rabbit hole. I'm like, oh, memory lane, or like, this is trash, I need to declutter. And then it's like 20 minutes is gone and I made no progress. So that's such good advice. You mentioned something that your son said when looking back at that baby photo. And it was like, do you remember, when I started sleeping through the night at 4 months old, and you're like, it's, it was so precious. And it's kind of interesting to think of all the ways that like our kids and us seeing these photos, how it impacts us on, on a deep, like relational, like human level. And, that really brings me to like kind of the overarching topic to, I think, a lot of what you discuss anyway, but maybe not say in words, is like leaving a legacy, leaving a legacy for our community, for our family, whatever that looks like. So how can we help ensure, maybe through photos, ensure that our family stories are passed down, and the memories, and like us as people? I know that's like a complex, nuanced question, but I'd love your take on it.
Yes, I have thought about this so much lately because all of our camera rolls are 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. And a lot of my work focuses on making sure we have proper backups in place so we never lost that library. But what does it look like after we're gone? No, our kids don't want 50,000 photos. They want some sort of curated legacy or library to carry on. And I think I got this from that book, The Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. Have you read that?
Yes.
Where she says, like, there's going to be some stuff that we're not decluttering because it's important to us while we're alive, but we need to like indicate that in some way that it can be thrown away when we pass away. Like, this is just for our enjoyment. And I think that applies very much to our camera rolls. I think that a lot of these 30,000 pictures on my phone are things I want and my memories, but they're not necessarily things that need to be part of my legacy. And so I think it's comparable to what I just said about focusing on the best ones and favoriting or hearting the best ones. I think that's where the curation comes in of we can keep 30,000. We can keep screenshots that matter to us. We can keep these things, but we need a way to indicate what are the really best ones that we maybe do something different with. And so what it looks like for me right now, my kids are 12 and 10, so not out of the house yet. What it looks like for me right now is I've created, I call it a best of album in my phone for each kid. And then I have like a best of each year, and I have a best of like the family photos. And so in my mind, that best of albums are actually the ones I linked to my Aura frame. So it was real easy. Like these are the best of. And those are the ones that if it comes time where I want to make a legacy book or a book for my son when he turns 18 and he leaves the house and I want to give him a book of his childhood, I'm going to pull from that best of album that I've curated of the best photos of that child. And those would be the albums too. Like maybe I put them on a flash drive and hand it to him when he leaves the house, or I don't know, put it in the safe, or put it in an online service that is going to last longer than like my iCloud. So it's first the curation work before we can even think about the legacy component. So it's first making an album of those really special photos, just so they can have a way to be separated from the rest.
And I think too, when you look at like the bigger picture, right, just like decluttering, my parents just spent 6 to 8 months clearing out my grandfather's house, who certainly lived through a time, the Great Depression, where no one threw anything out. And that mindset stuck with him for a long time. And what he left for my parents was certainly nothing curated. In fact, I can't tell you how many times my mom texted me photos that she found like in his garage, like under stacks of wood. She's like, these would have been so nice. Like, I don't know who this person is. Are they part of the family? Why are these photos? Like, a lot of them were ruined, But I think if we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, like, why am I spending my time while the baby's napping, or when I could be watching Real Housewives? You could do both, I guess. Like going through and making these photo books. I know I do, right? But when we like zoom out and we're like, it's not just about me, And I think you also hit on a really great point. And I just recorded an episode on this, is curating versus collecting. And when you go to a museum, you are standing in a gallery that has been curated. When we curate, we pick the best of the best, and these tell a story. They make us feel a certain way. Maybe it reignites a memory. It makes us feel elated. It makes us, I don't know, all the different things, whatever you want to curate. And that's the whole beauty of it. So curating versus collecting, I think, is a really profound way to look at this. Obviously, I apply that a lot towards physical stuff, but like you said, it also absolutely goes hand in hand with the digital realm as well.
Yes, like just a smaller example, when we got married back in 2008, our wedding photographer gave us 3,000 photos. That's so overwhelming because I then wanted to make an album and I was overwhelmed at where to start. I finally, for our 15th anniversary last year, made an album and it has 100 photos in it, right? So my first task was to go through the 3,000, curate to 100, and then make the book. And the book's beautiful, but that doesn't mean those 3,000 needed to get decluttered or thrown away. Yeah. They are still valuable to me, but they're not what I'm going to pass along. Those 100 in the book is what I'm going to pass on. Or if my kids don't want the book could die with me too, but I want to make sure they have 5 pictures from our wedding that are like the best ones to pass on. So there is definitely this spectrum where I think people in their head think, oh, I have 30,000 on my phone. I need to clean this up so that my kids don't get a mess. I think ultimately there's going to be this category that is clean and you keep, but it's just for you. And then a category that's curated and carries on.
So can you mention your backup boot camp? This is one of your first programs I enrolled in a long time ago, and how it can help people, do all the things you're talking about, organize their photos, create the photo books, all the things.
Yes, Backup Bootcamp is kind of the foundation. It is hard to do any of this work we're talking about if our photos are scattered in 10 different places. People who are around our age have lived through such an evolution of technology that we have like the print version, then we have memory cards, then we have like an old format of video camera that doesn't work anymore and doesn't play anymore. We have gone through all the different cloud services that came out. Picasso's no longer around, right? Like we've seen it.
Yes.
And so now we're here in this current technology and it's great. And there's so many features that can help us in this new technology. Like we can search for a person's face as we want to start curating those pictures of that person, right? And that didn't exist before, but we need to get all of our pictures then into this current platform so that we can do the work here. And so Bootcamp helps you do that. It helps you gather from your old PC or your old Mac and the old hard drives and the old cloud services that you don't use anymore so that you have one comprehensive library, and it helps you get the backups in place so that you're not fearful all the time of losing that library.
Now, you have an actual legacy book nearby. Can you show us? And I know if you're on Instagram, I'll have a video of this, but listeners, you'll have to just take our word for it. So Casey's going to show us a legacy book. Can you share more about this and what inspired you to make it?
This is such a cool project. So my mother-in-law has 3 boys. I'm married to the youngest and the other 2 are not married. And so I'm like the soul girl, right? Like all the hopes are resting on me to want to inherit all of the photos in her house. And the boys have made it clear, like they're not interested in all these books. She loves making photo books. She loved traveling early in her life. And so she has just books and books everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And again, this goes back to those books are valuable to her.
Yes.
And they're not necessarily to her kids because they're trips she went on, right? So they're going to stay for the duration of her life. We wanted something that then would be the curated version to carry on to the boys. So we made a series of 8 books. I only have 1 here and she has all 8. I have just a copy of 1. And we curated her life down to chapters. So it is like, it's a lot of black and white because she's older, right?
Sure.
So there's like her mom and dad, and then like her childhood, a couple special memories from her childhood, right?
Map.
It's very
so cool.
It's very curated. So we looked at her life and broke it into chapters. This is the until she turned 18, so childhood book. Then we have her she got married pretty young. And so there's their married life before kids. And then there's a book with each, like kind of focused on each of the 3 boys. Then she was lucky enough to do 2 really tremendous trips as she was I think she was 10. Her parents took her out of school for a year and they traveled around the US. So we made that its own book.
Wow.
And then when she was 18, I think it was when she graduated high school, her mom took her on a trip around the world. So we made that its own book, right? Like those are big milestones in her life. So, and then ultimately I think there's a chapter at the end, like after her husband passed away and she got remarried. Anyway, it was easy to like take a step back and look at what are the chapters of her life. And she's still alive, but we still made a book for each one. And she keeps them in her living room and makes everybody look at them. Like everybody that comes over, she's like, you have to look at these books of my life. But she's still with us, like I said. But I know that when she passes away, these books are going to make it easier for us to let go of the rest of the stuff that she has made and the other books that she's made that are just for her. And we will make sure that these 8 get carried on among one of the boys or myself or whoever takes them, right? So that was a huge project. It took us several years and it's been very rewarding for her to have these books.
That is so special. And, even though you invested tons of time up front, obviously, I think about the time you'll save on the back end. There's going to be a time where she isn't here and you've already made you drastically reduce decision fatigue because you already have a plan in place for so much of that. And I think too, you also highlight a great point that we can create these books before the people are gone too. Create them after they're gone. But I think sometimes we think legacy, like, oh, they need to be gone in order to start working on this. And not that you have to create a 8-volume series. She has lived a very full, exciting life and still has so many of the photos to be able to, build that. It reminded me, those are really beautiful books too. But they
don't have to be this fancy, right? This is like a wedding album, right? Like leather, really nice. And we have 8 of them. So it was quite an expensive investment. They could just be any type of book, but hers are really beautiful. She is obsessed with the color red, only wears red, right? So like hers are red books.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that on so many levels. I think that's fantastic. Okay, so Backup Boot Camp is really the foundation for whether you want to create a legacy book, a baby book, an annual book, even just get your ducks in a row when it comes to organizing your photos. Highly recommend. We still have a coupon code for all my listeners, right? For $10 off, I think it is. And it's code MINIMAL, if I remember correctly. Okay.
Yep.
Right. My brain still works. This is good. Okay. So
since 2019, if that's when we first chatted, that's pretty amazing.
I had to go back into the archives in my brain for that one. So Minimal gets you $10 off. Backup Boot Camp, highly recommend. That's where I started and it helped me so much. And okay, so where can my listeners connect with you? And then I've got one last fun question to end it off.
Okay. I am most active on Instagram. I am at miss.freddy on Instagram. I share a lot of free content there related to photos. And then my website is missfreddy.com. You can learn more about my self-paced courses there for when you're ready to do the work. Or if this is work you want to hand over to a professional, I offer one-on-one services too, where I will design the books for you, like I did for my mother-in-law, if that isn't something that interests you. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I can vouch for following Casey on Instagram. We've stayed connected over the years through Instagram, but I always love and appreciate your reels. When we had that recent Apple update, which I was DMing you about, I was so lost in the photos, the new photo updates. And you posted a reel. You're like, are you lost in the photos of the new Apple update? I'm like, yes, this is me. And then you're like, here, do step 1 through 4. And I was like, yes. So I followed it to a T. And then I messaged you and I was like, thank you.
It fixed it.
It fixed it. But think about it. It's like an everyday thing that I take photos every day. I was annoyed every day. And so you solved so many technology and photo challenges for those of us who are not inclined. So we
Apple really fumbled the the rollout of that one. I am on board. I love the redesign, but there was no education about here's how you customize it to make it fit your life, which is the goal of the new design. They just were like, here you go. It's changed and you can't find anything the way you used to. And it's Christmas and you're trying to find a Christmas card and good luck.
I know.
It was terrible.
It was horrible. So even if nothing else, if you struggle with all the Apple updates like me relating to photos, go give her a follow. You've got some great stuff on there. Okay. Yeah. So one last question before you say goodbye. It's a favorite of mine and just a nice way to end. And that question is, what is one thing in your home that you would never let go of and why?
Oh, something I would never let go of. I am such a minimalist, right? I've let go of a lot of things. I think my answer is supposed to be my stack of books, right? This stack. I didn't show you the stack necessarily. I showed you my mother-in-law's, but I have a stack like this in my living room. That's every year, right?
Annual books,
I think I would grab those books, but the truth is I have these I have them digitally. So if there was a fire or something, I could always recreate these books And so I don't know, I would never want to get rid of them, but I'm not panicked about losing them because I know it's my job to have the backup copies.
You got
and I
them
can make
back
them again. But I'd probably say my kids' baby books, right? Because that's the stuff I want them to take with them. If I need to let go of these, like they can enjoy these in my house for however many years. And if they don't decide that they want to take them on, that's fine. Like the Swedish cleaning method, I'm going to say like it's okay if these books die with me, but I hope the baby books they will take on. So I don't want to lose those. Yeah.
That is so sweet. Well, I'd be a little concerned if you answered something other than a photo book, but it's just, again, it highlights the meaning, and obviously you get enjoyment out of it, but we all hope secretly and not so secretly that these really curated things that we're creating the time to make for our children, that they'll enjoy them and want to take them with them too. And you already can see that even with that example you shared about your son. So that's really sweet.
I know. And I was just prepping for the cleaning lady yesterday, and I found the 2016 book was up under my daughter's bed, or like on my daughter's bed because she was reading it. So like my stack in my living room was missing 2016. And I was like, it was up on her bed and it's not the year she was born. She was 2, but something about that year, she just decided, I'm going to take this up and read this as I'm going to bed tonight. And that's so cute.
That is so sweet. And also brings up a good point too of once you make the photo book, have it somewhere visible and accessible so it can fulfill its purpose, right? Not just like tossed into a cluttered closet. So if you have some photo books, maybe you want to dig them out, rotate them on your coffee table, put them in your bookcase for display. You'd be surprised,
Absolutely.
Who'll reach from them and really get to enjoy them more.
That's the reason you're making the book, is so that people can read it. And I think it is very common to feel like it's very precious. Don't touch it. I don't want anyone to ruin it. Make sure you wash your hands kind of situation, right? Or I'm going to keep it stored away. And that is not the reason we're making the books. If you need to reprint, you always can. If you need to wipe off the cover, this is a pretty high quality book. That's fine. I can wipe off pages. I mean, we don't want to treat these too preciously. We want them to be enjoyed. And I'm glad that my daughter brought it up to her bedroom and was reading it, because that's the whole point.
That's right. Well, Casey, thanks for coming back on the show. As always, it was such a treat hanging out, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, thanks.